A ring is a circle with no beginning and no end. A promise made visible, a boundary worn as ornament. But here is what makes a ring different from all other jewelry. It encircles, it binds, it marks you. Not just on the outside, but in the way you move through the world, in the way others see you, in the way you see yourself. Every ring carries a story about commitment, about what you are willing to be bound to, about what you believe is worth marking yourself with permanently. And the ring you choose reveals not just your taste, but your relationship with forever, with vows, with the question of what deserves to encircle your life. The ring you choose today will show not what you want to promise, but what you believe a promise even means. Not what you want to commit to, but whether you believe commitment is freedom or cage. Before you are 4 rings, each one a different understanding of what it means to bind yourself to something. Each one a different answer to the question, what is worth wearing forever? The simple gold band, the intricate silver ring, the raw stone ring, the empty ring holder. Do not think about which ring others would choose for you. Do not think about what tradition demands or what fashion dictates. Simply feel which ring calls to your finger, which one feels like it was made for the shape of your commitment. Alan Watts understood that every symbol we wear is a statement about how we want to be held, how we want to be bound, whether we experience commitment as constriction or as sacred container. And the ring, worn closest to the hand that touches the world, tells that story most clearly. Breathe, look at your hand, and let the ring that understands you find you. Your choice is made. The ring is on your finger. Now, let us discover what it has been waiting to tell you about how you hold commitment. If you chose the simple gold band, you understand that the most profound commitments need no decoration. You are drawn to what is essential, to what is pure, to the kind of promise that does not need to be embellished or explained or justified. It simply is. The gold band says everything with nothing. It marks you without making you a spectacle. It binds you without binding you down. You value timelessness. The gold band is the same today as it was 1,000 years ago. The same in every culture. The same in every context. It does not follow trends because it transcends them. It does not need to be updated because it was never dated to begin with. This is how you approach commitment. You do not need elaborate vows or public declarations. You do not need the relationship to look a certain way from the outside. You need only the quiet, private knowing that you have chosen something and you will honor that choice. The rest is just noise. People respect your steadiness, your reliability, your understanding that real commitment is not performed, it is lived. Day after day. In the small, unglamorous moments when no one is watching, the gold band does not sparkle. It does not demand attention. It just stays. You are also drawn to tradition. Not because you are incapable of thinking for yourself, but because you recognize that some forms have survived because they work, because they carry meaning that does not need to be reinvented. The simple gold band is tradition distilled to its purest form, and you honor that. But there is also a danger in choosing only what is simple, because simplicity can become an excuse for emotional unavailability. You wear the plain band, but you do not let anyone see what the band represents. You make the commitment, but you do not express it. You bind yourself, but you do not let yourself be known. You fear that if you add anything to the band, if you personalize it, or express it, or make it unique, you will somehow cheapen it. So you keep it simple, keep it private, keep it so quiet that sometimes even you forget it is there. And in doing so, you have mistaken simplicity for silence, commitment for emotional withholding, the sacred for the secret. You have convinced yourself that the most important things should never be spoken, when really the most important things need to be spoken most carefully. Alan Watts would remind you that simplicity is not the same as absence, that the gold band is powerful not because it says nothing, but because it says everything without needing embellishment, that your commitment can be both simple and expressed, both timeless and personal, both private and shared. You can wear the simple band and also speak the words, make the promises, Let yourself be vulnerable enough to say what the band means to you. The gold does not lose its power when you give it context. It gains meaning. It becomes not just a symbol, but a story. If you chose the simple gold band, you are the soul who knows that the deepest commitments are the quietest ones. You do not need to prove your loyalty with grand gestures, but you also do not need to hide it. You are allowed to be both simple and expressive, both steady and vulnerable, both bound by gold and free to speak what that binding means. If you chose the intricate silver ring, you understand that commitment is not simple. It is complex, layered, full of nuance that deserves to be honored. You are drawn to detail, to craftsmanship, to the understanding that the most meaningful things cannot be reduced to a single clean line. They require intricacy. They require attention. They require the patience to create something that reveals new patterns the longer you look at it. The silver ring, with its woven patterns, its embedded stones, its deliberate complexity represents your belief that commitment is not a single choice. It is 1,000 small choices woven together. That love is not one feeling. It is many feelings braided into something stronger than any single strand. You value artistry. You believe that how you commit matters as much as what you commit to. That the ring should tell a story, that every detail should have meaning, that nothing should be arbitrary or purely decorative. Every curve, every stone, every twist of silver is intentional. This is how you approach relationships. You do not just say yes, you craft your yes. You think about what it means, you personalize it. You make sure that your commitment is not generic, but specific to this person, this bond, this particular configuration of souls. People are moved by your attention to detail, by your ability to remember what matters, by the way you notice and honor the small things that others overlook. You make people feel seen, not just loved in a general way, but loved specifically, known deeply, held carefully. The intricate ring also represents your understanding that commitment is not static, it evolves. The patterns shift in different light. New details reveal themselves over time. You do not expect your bond to stay the same forever. You expect it to deepen, to become more complex, to reveal layers you could not see at the beginning. But there is also a danger in too much complexity, because the intricate ring can become a hiding place. You focus so much on the details that you avoid the simple truth underneath. You craft such elaborate commitments that no one can actually tell what you are promising. You fear simplicity because simplicity feels vulnerable. If you just say, "I love you," without qualification, without nuance, without careful contextualization, you feel exposed. So you add layers, you add conditions, you add so many details that the original promise gets lost in the ornamentation. And in doing so, you have mistaken complexity for depth, intricacy for intimacy, the decorated ring for the bond itself. You have spent so much time crafting the perfect symbol that you have forgotten to live what the symbol is meant to represent. Alan Watts would tell you that the most profound truths are often the simplest ones. That yes can be just yes. That love can be just love. That sometimes the most meaningful commitment is the one that needs no elaboration. You can honor complexity without making everything complicated. You can appreciate detail without losing sight of the whole. You can wear the intricate ring and also speak the simple truth. I am here. I choose this. I am not leaving. If you chose the intricate silver ring, you are the soul who understands that commitment deserves care. You do not need to simplify yourself to be understood, but you also do not need to complicate yourself to be interesting. You are allowed to be both intricate and direct, both detailed and clear, both complex and committed to the simple truth underneath all the beautiful patterns you create. If you chose the raw stone ring, you understand that the most powerful commitments are the ones that honor what is unrefined. You are drawn to what is real, unpolished, still carrying the marks of where it came from. You do not want your ring to be perfected, or processed, or made to look like every other ring. You want it to be unique, imperfect, authentically itself. The raw stone raft, uncut, still bearing the texture of the earth, represents your belief that commitment should not require you to smooth away your rough edges. That love is not about becoming perfect, it is about being accepted as you actually are. Flaws included, roughness honored. You value authenticity above all else. You have no patience for performative commitment, for relationships that look good on the outside but feel hollow on the inside. You would rather have something real and messy than something beautiful and false. The raw stone is not trying to be anything other than what it is, and you respect that. This is how you approach bonds. You do not pretend, you do not perform. You show up as you actually are, and you ask the same from others. If the relationship cannot hold your darkness, your difficulty, your unpolished truth, then you do not want it. People are both drawn to and unsettled by your rawness. You do not hide your struggles. You do not pretend everything is fine when it is not. You let people see the unfinished parts, the parts that are still being shaped, the parts that may never be smooth. The raw stone ring also represents your understanding that commitment is wild, untamed, not something that can be domesticated or controlled. You do not believe in vows that try to contain or predict or manage the future. You believe in vows that honor whatever emerges, that stay even when things get rough, that do not require perfection. But there is also a danger in romanticizing the raw, because refusing to polish can become an excuse for refusing to grow. You wear your roughness like armor. You call it authenticity when sometimes it is just unwillingness to do the work of becoming easier to be around. You fear refinement because refinement feels like losing yourself, like becoming domesticated, like trading your wildness for acceptance. So you stay rough. Stay unpolished. Stay raw, even when that rawness cuts the people trying to hold you. And in doing so, you have mistaken roughness for realness, resistance to growth for authenticity, the raw stone for the only valid form of truth. You have convinced yourself that any attempt to soften, to smooth, to make yourself more accessible is a betrayal of who you are. But Alan Watts would remind you that even stones can be polished without losing their essence. That water shapes rock without destroying it. That becoming easier to hold does not mean becoming less real. It means becoming more generous, more able to be in relationship without causing harm. You can be authentic without being abrasive. You can be real without being rough. You can honor your raw edges while also recognizing that some of those edges are not protecting you, they are isolating you. If you chose the raw stone ring, you are the soul who refuses to be anything but real. You do not need to polish yourself into something acceptable, but you also do not need to use your roughness as a weapon. You are allowed to be both authentic and kind, both raw and refined, both unpolished and capable of being held without cutting the hand that reaches for. You, if you chose the empty ring holder, you understand something that terrifies most people, that the most honest commitment might be no commitment at all. You are not drawn to the ring itself. You are drawn to the space where the ring should be, the empty holder, the possibility without the actuality, the promise without the vow. And this is not because you are incapable of commitment, it is because you are unwilling to lie. The empty holder represents your understanding that you cannot promise forever when you can only live now, that you cannot vow what you do not know, that the most honest thing you can say is, I am here today. I choose you today. And tomorrow I will choose again. Or I will not, but I will not pretend to know. You value freedom, real freedom. Not the adolescent freedom of avoiding all bonds, but the mature freedom of refusing to bind yourself with promises you cannot keep. You have watched too many people wear rings that no longer mean anything. Too many commitments maintained out of obligation rather than choice, and you will not be one of them. This is how you approach relationship. You stay because you want to, not because you promised to. You love because you do, not because a vow said you would. And paradoxically, this often makes you more present, more attentive, more genuinely committed than people who are only staying because they said they would. People are confused by you. They do not understand how you can be so devoted without being bound, how you can be so present without promising permanence. They mistake your honesty for inability to commit, your integrity for fear, your freedom for flight risk. The empty holder also represents your understanding that all symbols eventually become empty. That the ring starts with meaning and slowly becomes just a piece of metal. That the vow begins as truth and slowly becomes just words. You would rather live in honest uncertainty than decorated lies. But there is also a danger in refusing all binding, because the empty holder can become a defense mechanism. You convince yourself you are being honest when really you are just protecting yourself from the vulnerability of actually committing, from the risk of saying yes and meaning it. You fear being trapped. You fear discovering that you made a promise you cannot keep. So you make no promises at all. You keep the holder empty. You keep the possibility open. You keep yourself technically free while also keeping yourself perpetually alone. And in doing so, you have mistaken refusal for honesty, freedom for disconnection, the empty holder for the only authentic choice. You have convinced yourself that commitment is always a lie, when really it is just a different kind of truth. Not a prediction, a declaration, not a guarantee, an intention. Alan Watts would tell you that commitment is not about knowing the future. It is about choosing the present so fully that the future takes care of itself. That the ring is not a cage, it is a reminder, a visible marker of an invisible choice. And that choice can be remade every day, while still being marked by the circle you wear. You can honor your uncertainty without making it permanent. You can be honest about not knowing without refusing to choose. You can fill the empty holder not with a promise of forever, but with a commitment to now, to this, to the person in front of you, until that is no longer true. And if it stops being true, you can remove the ring. But at least you will have worn it. At least you will have tried. If you chose the empty ring holder, you are the soul who refuses to make promises you cannot keep. You do not need to bind yourself falsely, but you also do not need to live your entire life unbound. You are allowed to commit without knowing, to choose without predicting, to wear the ring while understanding that rings, like all things, are temporary. And temporary does not mean meaningless. Sometimes temporary is the only thing that is real. For rings, for relationships with commitment. 4 ways of understanding what it means to bind yourself to something beyond yourself. Carl Jung understood that rings are among the most powerful symbols in the human unconscious. They represent wholeness, completion, the eternal return. But they also represent binding, limitation, the giving up of infinite possibility for the sake of singular choice. But Alan Watts would take this further. He would say that the ring you chose reveals not just your relationship with commitment, but your relationship with time itself, with permanence, with the question of whether anything in this constantly changing universe can ever truly be bound. The simple gold band revealed your belief that commitment should be timeless, that some promises transcend the moment they are made, that the circle can hold even as everything inside it changes. The intricate silver ring revealed your belief that commitment is complex, that the bond is made of many threads, that each detail matters and deserves to be honored and remembered. The raw stone ring revealed your belief that commitment should honor imperfection, that the bond does not require you to be anything other than what you are, that rough edges are not problems to be solved, but truths to be accepted. The empty holder revealed your belief that the most honest commitment might be the one that admits it cannot promise, that staying present is more important than promising future, that choosing today is more real than vowing forever. And all of these are valid. All of these are true. Because commitment is not one thing. It is the timeless and the temporary, the simple and the complex, the polished and the raw, the bound and the free. You are not the ring. You are the finger it rests on, the consciousness that can wear any symbol, understand any form of commitment, and know that ultimately, no external marker can bind what is essentially free. So where does this leave you? Perhaps you saw yourself in the ring you chose. Perhaps you recognized your own fears about commitment, your own hopes, your own understanding of what it means to bind yourself to something, and whether that binding is sacred or suffocating. This is valuable. All self-awareness is valuable. But do not make the ring you chose into the only ring you will ever wear. Do not decide that because you chose simplicity today, you can never honor complexity. Or that because you chose rawness today, you can never choose refinement. Because the truth is, commitment changes. What you need from a symbol at 20 is not what you need at 40. What you can promise today is not what you could promise yesterday or what you will promise tomorrow. The ring you chose revealed your current relationship with binding, your current capacity for vow, your current understanding of what it means to encircle your life with intention. But that capacity grows. That understanding deepens. That relationship transforms. You are allowed to wear the simple band and then add complexity, to honor the raw stone and then polish it, to fill the empty holder when you are finally ready, or to remove the ring entirely and discover that the commitment remains even without the symbol. The ring revealed your pattern. Now you get to choose. Is this the commitment you want to make? Is this the binding you want to accept? Is this the circle you want to wear? Or are you ready to choose again, differently, more consciously than before? Alan Watts once said that the only way to make sense of change is to plunge into it and join the dance. Today you looked at 4 rings and chose one. But the choosing was not the point. The point was to realize that every ring is both a promise and a paradox. That every commitment is both a binding and a freedom. That the circle has no beginning and no end, which means you can enter it anywhere and leave it nowhere, or everywhere. The ring revealed your current understanding of what can be promised. But it did not lock you into that understanding forever. Because you are not stone, you are water. And water can take any shape, wear any ring, and still remain essentially itself. So carry this knowing lightly. Hold your insights gently, and remember that all rings eventually come off. All symbols eventually dissolve. All commitments eventually return to the silence from which they came. And you, the one who wears, the one who chooses, the one who vows you, remain free, even when you are bound, precisely because you understand that the binding was always your choice. If something in this reflection resonated with you, if you saw yourself in the ring you chose, we invite you to share it in the comments below. Not to defend your choice, not to explain your relationship with commitment, but simply to acknowledge, I saw my pattern. I recognized what I believe about binding. And now I can choose more consciously, because awareness is what transforms unconscious patterns into conscious choices. And by sharing your awareness, you give others permission to see their own patterns clearly. There are more reflections like this waiting for you. More mirrors. More invitations to see how you have been living, so you can choose how you want to live next. Stay not because you need another test, but because something in you recognizes that this is not about finding the right answer. It is about asking better questions about who you are when you promise, who you become when you commit, who remains when all the rings are removed. And until we meet again, remember this: you are not the ring you wear. You are the finger that can hold any circle, the consciousness that can honor any commitment. The freedom that exists before the vow is made and remains after the vow is complete. See you in the next reflection.